The gavel was falling. 4 children were about to be torn from their mother's arms and scattered across Texas like autumn leaves. The widow had nothing left, no money, no hope, no one willing to stand up for her. Then a stranger's voice cut through the crowd like a blade. $400. I will take them all. Every head turned. The judge went pale, because the man who just bought this family was carrying a secret that could destroy them all. He had killed her father 15 years ago, and she had no idea. This is a story about second chances, about the courage it takes to stop running from your past and start fighting for your future. It proves that family is not always blood. Sometimes family is the people who show up when everyone else walks away. If you have ever felt broken beyond repair, this story is for you. If you want to see how this impossible love story unfolds, stay until the very end. I promise you will not see that twist coming. Drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels across the world. And if stories about redemption and fighting for the ones you love speak to your heart, hit that subscribe button and join our family. We bring you powerful stories every week that will make you laugh, cry, and believe in second chances again. Now settle in. This journey is just beginning. The morphine vial felt like it weighed 100 pounds in his pocket. Ezra Stone stood at the edge of the crowd in Dry Springs, Texas, his hands trembling against his will. Not from fear, never from fear. 6 months of white-knuckling sobriety had left his body fighting a war his mind had already won. Most days, he was not here to save anyone. He had ridden into this dust-choked town because he heard a name whispered in a saloon 3 days back. Mercer. Judge Cornelius Mercer. The same Mercer connected to the Comancheros who burned his homestead 3 years ago. The same Mercer whose shadow touched every crooked deal in the territory. Ezra came looking for information. Maybe revenge. Probably death. The sun hung brutal and white over the courthouse steps, beating down on the crowd gathered for what they called a debt auction. Ezra knew what it really was. Legal slavery dressed up in paperwork and pretense. On the wooden platform, a woman stood with 4 children pressed against her like she could shield them from the world with nothing but her body. The eldest boy, maybe 11, stood rigid at her side. A girl of about 8 clutched a worn Bible to her chest. And 2 small boys, twins by the look of them, held hands with eyes too big for their faces. The woman herself was something. Not beautiful in the soft way men usually meant. Beautiful like a thunderstorm. Like something that could hurt you if you got too close. Dark hair pulled back severe, a jaw set hard against whatever was coming, and eyes that burned with the kind of fire that only comes from having nothing left to lose. Judge Mercer presided from the top step, his gold watch chain catching the light as he gestured to the crowd. Ezra recognized him immediately. Fat, satisfied, the kind of man who had never missed a meal while others starved. The kind of man Ezra had spent 20 years hunting. This is the story of a widow who lost everything and the man who gave her a reason to fight. If you want to see how it ends, stay with me. Drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels. Now, let me take you back to that terrible day. Mercer was speaking now, his voice carrying across the square with practiced authority. We are here today to settle the debts of the late Samuel Weston, $342 owed to the Dry Springs Bank. The property has been seized, but as the law requires, Mrs. Weston and her children must be provided for. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Any man willing to take on this responsibility will receive compensation from the county. Ezra watched the woman step forward. Her voice cracked but did not break. Your Honor, please give me more time. The rains will come. I can pay. Mercer did not even look at her. The rains are not coming, Mrs. Weston. Your husband left you with nothing but dust and debt. Be grateful we are not throwing you in the street. I am not asking for charity. I am asking for time. Time is money. Mercer smiled. and it was the coldest thing Ezra had seen since he buried his wife and daughter in the hard Texas dirt. "And you have neither." He turned to the crowd. "Now then, who will take the woman?" Silence fell over the square. Ezra watched the townspeople avoid the widow's eyes. The shopkeeper who probably sold her flour every week, the rancher whose wife she might have nursed through fever, the preacher who surely buried her husband. None of them would meet her gaze. "Come now." Mercer's voice took on an oily quality. "She's a hard worker, healthy, still young enough to be useful." A man in the back spat tobacco into the dust. "I will take her. Need someone to cook for my hands." Ezra recognized the type. 3 ranches and a reputation for working hired help until they dropped. "But I ain't taking them kids. 4 mouths is too many." Noted. Mercer made a mark in his ledger. "What about the boy? The eldest?" A blacksmith raised his hand. "I could use him at the forge. He is big enough. Excellent. And the girl? I will take the girl." A woman with a pinched face and a black bonnet stepped forward. "She can scrub floors, earn her keep." The widow's voice cut through the murmuring crowd, sharp as broken glass. "No, no. You cannot do this." Mercer ignored her completely. "The twins. Who wants the twins?" Silence stretched across the square. The crowd shifted like they had somewhere else to be. 5-year-olds could not work. They were just mouths to feed. "Nobody?" Mercer's lip curled. "Well, I suppose they could go to the orphanage in Austin. Long trip, but no." The widow lunged forward, putting herself between her children and the crowd. Her voice rang out, raw and desperate. "You will not take my children. Do you hear me? You will not separate this family. Mrs. Weston." Mercer's voice was ice. "You have no say in this matter. You are destitute. You are a debtor, and debtors do not make demands. Then take me to prison. Take the land. Take everything. But you cannot have my children." Ezra felt something shift in his chest, something he thought had died 3 years ago in the ashes of his homestead. The sheriff stepped forward, tall, lean, with a silver star pinned to his black vest. He grabbed the widow's arms and pulled her back from the edge of the platform. "Easy now, Mrs. Weston. Do not make this harder than it has to be. Get your hands off my mother." The eldest boy broke free and charged at the sheriff, fist swinging. The man caught him easily, lifting him off his feet. "Let him go." The widow screamed. The little girl started crying. The twins wailed. And the crowd watched it all with the detached interest of folks watching a dog fight. "Enough," Mercer raised his gavel. "The children will be divided as follows. The boy to the blacksmith, the girl to Mrs. Harmon, the twins to Austin. The woman goes to Dawson. This is my ruling." The gavel began to fall, and Ezra heard himself speak. $400. His voice cut through the chaos like a blade through flesh. Deep, calm, final. Mercer's gavel stopped mid-swing. Every head turned. Ezra stepped forward from the edge of the crowd, and people parted around him like water around a stone. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with shoulders broad enough to fill a doorway. His trail coat was dusty, his hat was sweat-stained, and the Colt revolver on his hip looked like it had seen plenty of use. But it was his face that made folks step back, weathered by sun and time, a thick black beard covering his jaw, and eyes gray as storm clouds, hard but not cruel. A long scar ran down his left forearm where his sleeves were rolled up. I said $400. His boots struck the wooden boards of the square with heavy, deliberate thuds. "That covers the debt." Mercer's eyes narrowed. Something flickered in his expression. Recognition. Calculation. Maybe fear. "And who might you be?" "Name is Ezra Stone." A whisper ran through the crowd. The sheriff's face went pale. "Stone?" His voice cracked. "Ezra Stone? You know this man?" Mercer asked. "He was a ranger," the sheriff said quietly. One of the best, until he disappeared. Ezra stopped at the base of the platform. He looked up at the widow, and for a moment their eyes met. Her face, her eyes, the shape of her jaw. He knew that face. He had seen it in nightmares for 15 years. She was the girl, McCrae's daughter, the child who watched from the shadows as her father fell. A memory flashed through his mind, unbidden. A dark night, gunfire, a man falling, and a girl, maybe 13, screaming from the doorway of a burning cabin. Ezra pushed the memory down, buried it deep where he kept all the things he could not afford to feel. Let the boy go. It was not a request. The sheriff hesitated, looking at Mercer. The judge gave a tiny nod. The sheriff released the boy, who immediately ran back to his mother. Mr. Stone. Mercer's voice was careful now. This is a legal proceeding. You cannot simply... I am not simply doing anything. Ezra reached into his coat and pulled out a leather pouch. He tossed it onto the podium. It landed with the heavy clink of gold coins. 400 in gold. Count it. Mercer opened the pouch. His eyes widened. This is more than the debt. The extra is for your trouble. Mercer's tone changed, cautious, almost nervous. This is generous, but the law requires that the family be housed. A ranch out in the wilderness is no place for... My ranch has 4 walls, a roof, and a well that has not gone dry. Ezra's voice stayed flat. That is more than most in this town can say, but surely you do not want the children. 4 of them, all under 12. It is a burden no single man... Did I stutter? Ezra stepped onto the platform. He was even bigger up close. He towered over Mercer, over the sheriff, over everyone. I am paying the debt. He spoke slowly, like explaining something to a child. I am taking the woman, and I am taking every one of her children. The crowd gasped. All 4? Someone called out. All 4. Ezra turned and looked at the townspeople. His gaze swept across them like a scythe. They stay together. Anyone has a problem with that, you can take it up with me. No one spoke. Dawson, who had offered to take the widow, suddenly found something fascinating to look at on the ground. The blacksmith melted back into the crowd. Mrs. Harmon clutched her purse and hurried away. Mercer's jaw tightened. Ezra could see the calculation in his eyes, the anger, the frustration. This was not how it was supposed to go. Very well, Mercer said through gritted teeth. The debt is paid. Mrs. Weston and her children are released into the custody of Mr. Ezra Stone. He slammed the gavel down. This proceeding is concluded. The crowd began to disperse, muttering among themselves. The widow stood frozen on the platform, her children pressed against her, staring at the stranger who had just bought their freedom. Ezra turned to her. You have belongings? She found her voice. A trunk at the boarding house. We will collect it on the way out. He tipped his hat. Ma'am. He turned and started walking toward a wagon at the edge of the square. A sturdy thing pulled by 2 draft horses that looked as weathered as their owner. The widow did not move. Her eldest boy tugged at her sleeve. Mama, what do we do? What do we do? She had no answer. A stranger had just paid gold for her family. She did not know his intentions. She did not know anything about him except his name and the fact that the sheriff had looked at him like he had seen a ghost. But she knew what waited for her if she stayed. Division, separation. Her children scattered to the winds. We go with him, she said quietly. She gathered her children and followed Ezra Stone toward the wagon. Behind her she heard the sheriff's voice, low and dark. This is not over, Stone. The judge does not forget. Ezra did not turn around. Neither do I. As Clara climbed onto the wagon bench beside the stranger, she stole a glance at his face. Those eyes, gray as storm clouds. Something about them tugged at a memory buried deep. Where have I seen those eyes before? She could not remember. Not yet. But something told her that when she did, everything would change. The wagon lurched forward, leaving Dry Springs behind in a cloud of dust. And Clara Weston began the longest journey of her life, beside a man she did not know, toward a future she could not imagine, with 4 children who were counting on her to keep them safe. She had no idea that the stranger holding the reins had killed her father 15 years ago. She had no idea that the judge watching them leave was already planning his next move. And she had no idea that before this summer was over she would have to choose between the truth and the only chance at happiness she had left. But that is a story for the next chapter. The wagon creaked and groaned beneath them as they left the town behind, wheels cutting through dust that had not seen rain in months. Clara sat rigid on the bench beside the stranger who had bought her family. Her children huddled in the wagon bed behind them, cushioned on horse blankets that smelled of sweat and old leather. Daniel kept his hand on his knife. Grace held her Bible like a shield. The twins had finally stopped crying, but their eyes stayed too wide, too watchful. Clara studied the man beside her without appearing to do so, a skill she had learned early and learned well. His hands on the reins were steady now, but she had seen them shake back in town. Not badly, just enough for someone who knew what to look for. She had spent 3 years watching Samuel's hands shake. She knew the signs. The question was, what was Ezra Stone recovering from? And how long before whatever it was made him dangerous? For the first mile, no one spoke. Then Clara could not stand the silence anymore. Why? Ezra did not look at her. Why what? Why did you do it? You do not know us. You do not owe us anything. No, I do not. Then why spend that much gold on a widow and 4 children you have never met? Silence stretched between them. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. Because I have seen what men like Mercer do when they get power. I have seen families torn apart because nobody stood up. He paused. I was in town for supplies. I heard what was happening. I decided I had had enough of standing by. Clara studied his profile, the hard line of his jaw, the scar on his arm, the way his eyes kept scanning the horizon like he expected trouble from every direction. You were a ranger. The sheriff knew you. That was a long time ago. What happened? His grip tightened on the reins, just slightly, just for a moment. I lost people, and I stopped being a ranger. Clara heard the door in his voice. Closed, locked, not open for discussion. She let it go, for now. The road wound through scrubland, brown and brittle under the relentless sun. Mesquite trees twisted up from the cracked earth like arthritic fingers reaching for a sky that refused to give them rain. About an hour out, 3 riders appeared on the road ahead. Clara felt Ezra tense beside her. His hand moved almost imperceptibly toward his hip. Stay calm, he said, his voice quiet. Do not say anything unless they speak to you first. The riders blocked the road in a loose formation. Hard men with weathered faces and guns worn easy on their hips, comancheros, or men who rode with them. Clara knew the type. Her father had done business with men like these. That memory sat bitter in her mouth. Ezra pulled the wagon to a stop and waited. The leader edged his horse forward. He had a face like tanned leather and eyes that missed nothing. You're a long way from anywhere, friend, just passing through. Ezra's voice was calm, almost bored. The leader's eyes moved to Clara, then widened with recognition. Well, I will be damned. You are McCrae's girl, ain't you? Silas McCrae's daughter? Clara went rigid. She felt Daniel shift behind her, his hand tightening on his knife. Your daddy was a good customer. The leader grinned, showing tobacco-stained teeth. Till someone put a bullet in him. You ever find out who did that? Clara said nothing, but she felt Ezra stiffen beside her. She felt something else, too. A flicker of memory. Her father falling. The crack of a gunshot. And eyes. Gray eyes, watching from the darkness. She pushed the thought away. Ezra spoke, his voice dropping to something cold and quiet. You know who I am? The leader looked at him properly for the first time. His grin faded. Stone. Ezra Stone. Then you know how this ends if you do not move. The silence stretched. Clara could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the twins pressing closer to Grace in the wagon bed. The leader exchanged glances with his men. Didn't mean nothing by it, just making conversation. He pulled his horse aside. "Safe travels, Stone, ma'am." The three riders moved off the road. Ezra flicked the reins, and the wagon rolled forward. Clara did not breathe properly until they were well past. "They knew my father," she said finally. "Lots of bad men knew your father. Did you?" Ezra did not answer. The silence said everything. They reached Ezra's ranch in late afternoon. It was not what Clara expected. The fences were broken in a dozen places. The barn listed to one side like a drunk trying to stay upright. Weeds choked what might once have been a garden. The house itself was standing, barely, but it had the look of a place that had given up on being a home. "This is where you live?" Clara could not keep the dismay from her voice. "This is where I have been waiting." "Waiting for what?" He did not answer, but Clara saw the truth in his eyes when he looked at her. He had been waiting to die. She climbed down from the wagon, her children gathering around her like chicks around a hen. The twins clutched at her skirts. Grace held tight to her Bible. Daniel stood slightly apart, trying to look tough, trying to be the man of the family even though he was only 11 years old. "It is not much," Ezra said, and there was something almost like apology in his voice. "It has walls. It has a roof." Clara squared her shoulders. "It will do." She turned to her children. "Daniel, help Mr. Stone with the horses. Grace, take your brothers inside and see what needs cleaning. We have work to do." The children scattered to their tasks. Clara watched them go, then turned back to Ezra. "We need to talk about arrangements. I will not have my children in a situation that is not proper." Ezra actually looked uncomfortable. "You and the children take the back room. I sleep out front by the door." "Why by the door?" His eyes swept the horizon. The sun was going down now, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. "Because trouble comes through doors, and I like to meet it first." That night, Clara could not sleep. The children were settled in the back room, all four of them sharing two narrow beds pushed together. She had told them stories until their eyes grew heavy, had kissed their foreheads and promised them everything would be all right. Lies, maybe, but the kind of lies mothers have to tell. Now she lay in the darkness, listening. She heard Ezra outside, pacing. She heard him talking to himself, fragments of words that drifted through the thin walls. "Sarah, Emma. I am sorry. I am sorry." Names, women's names, spoken with the kind of anguish that comes from somewhere deep and broken. Clara understood then. He was not dangerous to her family. He was dangerous to himself. She made a decision. Whatever his secrets were, she needed him functional. She needed him standing between her children and whatever Mercer was planning next. Tomorrow, she would figure out how to keep Ezra Stone alive. Sleep finally came, but it did not stay long. Clara woke before dawn, driven by habit and the need to be useful. She found her way to the kitchen, such as it was, and began taking inventory. Flour, salt, dried beans, some questionable jerky. Not much, but enough to work with. She was elbow-deep in the pantry when she heard movement behind her. Ezra stood in the doorway watching her. He looked like he had not slept at all. "You are up early. Children will be hungry. I'm making breakfast." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe? Like he had forgotten what it looked like when someone took care of things. "You do not have to do that." "I know." Clara turned back to the pantry. "But I'm going to anyway." After breakfast, Clara sent the children outside to explore. "Stay close to the house," she told them. "Do not wander. Daniel, you are in charge." Then she went looking for Ezra. She found him in the barn, what was left of it. He was checking harnesses, his movements mechanical. "Mr. Stone." He looked up. "We need supplies." This pantry would not feed a family of mice, let alone 4 growing children. I know. I was planning to ride into town tomorrow. Clara shook her head. I will make a list, but there is something else I need from you first. What is that? Answers. She pulled something from her apron pocket. A photograph, worn and creased from handling. I found this last night. In your saddlebag. I was looking for medicine, something to help with whatever you are recovering from. She held up the photograph. This is my mother, my father, and me, when I was 13 years old. Ezra's face went very still. Why do you have a picture of my family? The silence stretched between them, heavy and dangerous. Finally, Ezra spoke. Where did you get that? From your things. And you are going to tell me why you have it, or I am taking my children and walking back to town. You would not survive the walk. Then I will die knowing the truth instead of living with lies. Ezra stared at her for a long moment. Then he took the photograph from her hand, looked at it, and closed his eyes. When you are ready to hear the whole truth, I will tell you, but not today. Today we have work to do. That is not good enough. It has to be. He opened his eyes. They were gray as storm clouds, gray as the eyes she kept seeing in her nightmares. I am not your enemy, Clara. I know you have no reason to believe that, but I am asking you to trust me, just for a little while, until I can find the words. Clara studied his face, the exhaustion, the guilt, the something underneath that she could not quite name. My son saw something, the night my husband died. Someone put something in Samuel's whiskey. Ezra's expression shifted, sharpened. What did he see? A man. He could not see the face clearly, but there was a mark on the man's neck. A birthmark, shaped like a star. Ezra's hand clenched into a fist. Wade Barrett, the sheriff. He has a birthmark like that. Clara felt the ground shift beneath her feet. You knew Barrett? I knew his brother better. Thomas Barrett. He was my partner when I was a ranger. Ezra's voice went hard. Thomas died because of me, 15 years ago. And Barrett has never forgiven me for it. My husband was murdered? Barrett did not poison your husband for personal reasons. Someone paid him. Someone who wanted your land. Clara did not need to ask who. She already knew. Mercer. Mercer. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. I am going to kill him, Clara heard herself say. Not if I do it first, Ezra replied. And for the first time since they met, Clara saw something like hope in his eyes. Not hope for himself, hope for revenge. Daniel Weston was 11 years old, and he carried a secret that was eating him alive. He had not slept properly in 2 years. Not since the night his father died. Not since he saw the shadow by the window, the hand slipping something into the whiskey bottle his father kept on the kitchen shelf. For 2 years, Daniel had believed that Shadow was his mother. He had watched her move through the house that night, restless and worried the way she always was when Pa was drinking. He had seen her make the tea she always made, the one that was supposed to help Pa sleep without nightmares. And when Pa did not wake up the next morning, Daniel had known, or thought he knew. So he had kept quiet, protected her. Let everyone believe it was just the drinking that finally caught up with Samuel Weston. Let his mother carry the guilt he could see weighing on her shoulders because he thought she deserved to feel it. 2 years of silence. 2 years of watching. 2 years of being terrified of the woman who raised him. Now they were living in a stranger's house, and Daniel did not know what to believe anymore. The morning after they arrived, Daniel woke to the smell of biscuits. For a moment he forgot everything, forgot the auction, forgot Ezra Stone, forgot the secret he carried. The smell was so familiar, so much like mornings used to be before Pa got bad, that Daniel almost smiled. Then he remembered where he was, and the smile died. He found his mother in the kitchen, flour on her apron and determination on her face. The twins were already at the table, stuffing their faces. Grace was setting out plates, her Bible tucked under one arm even as she worked. And Ezra Stone sat at the head of the table, looking like a man who had forgotten what it meant to have a family in his house. Daniel slipped into his seat without a word. "Morning." His mother set a plate of biscuits in front of him. "Eat up, we have work to do today." Daniel ate, but he watched. He was always watching now. He watched how Ezra's hands trembled slightly when he reached for his coffee. He watched how the man's eyes kept drifting to the window, scanning the horizon like he expected an attack at any moment. He watched how his mother moved around Ezra, careful and precise, like she was trying to figure him out too. After breakfast, Ezra pushed back from the table. "Daniel, come with me." Daniel looked at his mother. She gave a small nod. He followed Ezra out to the corral. The horse was a dun-colored mare named Pepper, and she looked at Daniel with eyes that seemed to see right through him. "She is gentle," Ezra said, "but she is not stupid. You treat her wrong, she will throw you. Understand?" "Yes, sir." "First rule, never approach a horse from behind. Always let her see you coming." "Yes, sir." "Second rule, a horse can smell fear. So, do not be afraid." Daniel swallowed hard. "What if I am afraid?" Ezra looked at him for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. "Then you do it anyway. That is what courage is. Being scared and doing it anyway." He handed Daniel the reins. "Now, put your foot in the stirrup, left foot. Grab the saddle horn and pull yourself up." Daniel tried. He got halfway up before his arms gave out and he slid back down. His face burned with embarrassment. Again. "I cannot. Again." Daniel gritted his teeth. He grabbed the saddle horn and pulled with everything he had. This time, he made it. He sat in the saddle, breathing hard, looking down at Ezra with wide eyes. "I did it. Do not celebrate yet. Now you have to stay on." Ezra took the lead rope. "Heels down, back straight. Let your body move with the horse, not against it." He started walking, leading the mare in a slow circle. Daniel wobbled but held on. "My pa never taught me this," Daniel said before he could stop himself. "Your pa had his reasons. My pa drank. That was his reason for everything." Ezra said nothing, but his jaw tightened. They rode in silence for a while, around and around the corral. Daniel's legs ached, his arms burned, but something in him refused to quit. "You lost your family," Daniel said finally. "The sheriff said so, back in town." Ezra stopped walking. The horse stopped too. "Yes. What happened to them?" The silence stretched so long that Daniel thought Ezra would not answer. "Comancheros," Ezra said finally. "They burned my homestead while I was away on a job. My wife and daughter were inside." Daniel felt something twist in his chest. He thought of his sisters, his brothers, his mother. "I am sorry. Do not be sorry." Ezra started walking again. "Just learn to ride. Learn to shoot. Learn to protect the people you love. That is the best thing you can do." That afternoon, Daniel found his mother alone in the back of the house, mending clothes. He sat down across from her. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. "Mama." She looked up. "I need to tell you something. About the night Pa died." Her hands went still. The needle stopped moving. "What about it?" Daniel took a deep breath. 2 years of silence pressing down on him. "I saw someone. Before Pa went to bed, someone put something in his whiskey bottle." His mother's face went pale. "What? Who?" I could not see his face. It was dark. But he had a mark on his neck, like a birthmark, shaped like a star. His mother did not breathe, did not move. Daniel felt tears burning in his eyes. I thought maybe it was you. The way you moved around the kitchen that night. I thought maybe you did something and did not want anyone to know. That is why I never said anything." His voice broke. "I was protecting you." His mother pulled him into her arms so fast he almost fell off his chair. "It was not me, Daniel. I swear to God it was not me." "Then who?" A voice from the doorway made them both jump. "Wade Barrett, the sheriff." Ezra stood there, his face grim. "He has a birthmark like that on his neck. I have seen it, when we were rangers together years ago." Daniel felt his mother go rigid. "You knew Barrett?" "I knew his brother better. Thomas Barrett. He was my partner." Ezra's voice went flat. "He died because of me." The room went quiet. Daniel could hear his own heartbeat, could hear Grace in the other room, reading to the twins. "Barrett did not poison your husband for personal reasons." Ezra continued. "Someone paid him, someone who wanted your land." Daniel watched his mother's face change, watched the guilt that had haunted her for 2 years transform into something harder, something dangerous. "Mercer. Mercer," Ezra confirmed. Daniel's mother stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. "I am going to kill him, not if I do it first." Daniel looked between them. The stranger who had bought his family, the mother he had spent 2 years being afraid of, and he understood something that would change him forever. Sometimes the people you think are monsters are just people who have been hurt, and sometimes the real monsters wear badges and suits and smiles. "Mama," he said. His mother looked at him. "I am sorry. For thinking it was you, for not telling anyone." She knelt down and cupped his face in her hands. "You were protecting me. That is what family does." She kissed his forehead. "But no more secrets. Not between us. Not ever again. Understand?" "Yes, ma'am." She stood and turned to Ezra. "You have secrets too. I can see them. And when you are ready, you are going to tell me everything." Ezra met her eyes. "Fair enough." That night, Daniel lay awake listening to the sounds of the house settling around him. His sisters and brothers were asleep in the beds beside him. Grace had one arm thrown over the twins, protective even in sleep. Through the thin walls, Daniel could hear his mother and Ezra talking. Low voices, serious tones, planning something. He did not know what was coming, did not know if they would survive it. But for the first time in 2 years, the weight on his chest felt a little lighter. He was not carrying the secret alone anymore. And that made all the difference. 3 days passed. The ranch began to take shape under their combined efforts. Fences got mended, the barn got shored up, the garden got cleared of weeds, even though nothing would grow until the rains came. Clara worked from dawn until dark, partly because there was so much to do, partly because it kept her mind off everything else. The photograph, the secrets. The way Ezra Stone looked at her sometimes, like she was a ghost he had been waiting for. On the 4th morning, Clara found Ezra in what passed for a workshop, cleaning weapons. He had an arsenal spread out before him. Rifles, pistols, knives. Enough firepower to start a small war. One rifle lay apart from the others. Ezra was wrestling with it, trying to unjam something in the mechanism. Clara watched for a moment. Then she stepped forward. "The firing pin is bent. You are forcing it wrong." Ezra looked up, surprised. "May I?" She did not wait for permission. She took the rifle from his hands and began disassembling it with quick, practiced movements. In 30 seconds, she had the firing pin out. She examined it, bent it carefully back into shape, and reassembled the whole mechanism. She handed the rifle back. Ezra stared at her. "You said you did not know how to shoot. I said I did not know how to shoot well." Clara met his eyes. "I never said anything about knowing how guns work. Your father taught you." It was not a question. "My father taught me a lot of things, not all of them good." That afternoon, Ezra set up targets behind the barn. Tin cans on fence posts, bottles on a stump, a scarecrow made of old clothes stuffed with straw. He handed Clara a pistol. "Show me." She hesitated. For 15 years, she had hidden this part of herself, buried it deep, played the helpless widow, the fragile woman, the harmless creature men could ignore. Showing her true skills felt like stripping naked, but she was tired of hiding. Clara raised the pistol, took a breath, let it out slow. She fired 6 shots, all 6 hit center. The tin cans pinged off the fence posts. The bottles shattered. The scarecrow took 2 bullets through its stuffed heart. Clara lowered the gun. Her hands were steady. Ezra said nothing for a long moment. Why hide it? Because a woman who can shoot is threatening. Clara ejected the spent shells and began reloading. And threatening women do not survive. You might need to stop surviving and start fighting. I know. She met his eyes. That is what scares me. That night, Clara woke to screaming. She was on her feet before she was fully conscious, her hand reaching for the knife she kept under her pillow. Then she recognized the voice. Ezra. She found him tangled in his bedroll, fighting enemies only he could see. His face was slick with sweat, his whole body rigid with terror. Sarah. Emma. I am coming. Hold on. Clara hesitated. She remembered Samuel's nightmares, the way he would thrash and strike out at anyone who touched him. But something told her Ezra was different. She sat beside him, placed a cool cloth on his forehead, waited. He woke with a gasp, his hand shooting out to grab her wrist. For a second his eyes were wild, unseeing. Then recognition flooded in. Clara. You were dreaming. He released her. Sat up, ran his hands through his hair. I dream about them every night. My wife, my daughter. The fire. Tell me about them. He should not. He never talked about them. But something about the darkness and her presence and the exhaustion. Sarah was stubborn, like you, never backed down from a fight. He paused, his voice cracked. Emma was 6. She was afraid of the dark. I used to light a candle by her bed every night. She called me Papa Bear. Clara did not offer platitudes. She just listened. Comancheros burned the homestead while I was away. By the time I got back, there was nothing left but ashes. I'm sorry, do not be sorry. It was my fault. I should have been there. You could not have known. That is what everyone says. It does not help. Clara nodded slowly. I know. People said the same thing to me when Samuel died. As if words could change anything. They sat in silence for a moment. 2 people who understood loss in a way most folks never would. What were they like? Clara asked softly. At the end. What do you remember? Ezra closed his eyes. Emma had learned to read that spring. She was so proud. She would read to Sarah every night, stumbling over the big words. Sarah would pretend to be amazed even when Emma got them wrong. He smiled. Just a ghost of a smile, but real. Last thing Emma said to me was, "Hurry home, Papa Bear. Mama promised we could make pie." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. They loved you. They trusted me. And I failed them. No. Clara's voice was fierce. The men who killed them failed them. You loved them. That is different. Ezra opened his eyes, looked at her. Why does that matter to you? Because I spent 2 years believing I killed my husband, and I need you to understand that guilt will eat you alive if you let it. She stood. But it does not have to. You can choose to carry it differently. She went back to her room. Behind her, she heard Ezra whisper something. Too quiet to make out. But it sounded like thank you. The next morning, Clara was putting away clean laundry when she found it. A small glass vial tucked behind a loose board in the wall. She pulled it out and held it up to the light. Morphine. She recognized it instantly. Samuel had used the stuff toward the end, when the drinking stopped working and he needed something stronger to quiet the demons in his head. Clara stared at the vial. She thought about confronting Ezra, demanding explanations. Instead, she put it back exactly where she found it. That night, she watched through the window as Ezra checked his hiding spot. An old habit, she guessed. The vial was there, untouched. But she could tell from the way he paused that he knew she had found it. She had found it and left it. She was trusting him to make his own choice. Later, Clara heard liquid splashing outside. She looked through the window. Ezra was pouring the morphine into the dirt. He did not know she was watching. He was not performing, he was just choosing. And Clara felt something shift in her chest, something that had been frozen solid for a very long time. The attack came 3 nights later. Clara was dreaming of her mother's kitchen when the dog started barking. She was on her feet in seconds, the knife in her hand before her eyes were fully open. "Mama?" Grace's voice, small and scared. "Stay here. Keep your brothers quiet." Clara moved through the dark house like a shadow. She found Ezra already on the porch, rifle in hand. His face was carved from stone. How many? 8, maybe more. They set fire to the barn. Clara looked. Orange flames were already licking up the walls of the old structure. The children are safer inside than out here. Daniel knows to barricade the door. Clara gripped her rifle. Then let us make sure they stay that way. The fight was chaos. Gunfire cracked through the night. Men shouted. Horses screamed. The barn burned like a funeral pyre, casting everything in hellish orange light. Ezra was pinned behind the water trough, trading shots with 3 men who had taken cover behind the old wagon. Clara did not join him. Instead, she moved. Her father had taught her to shoot, but he had also taught her to hunt, to move silently, to kill without hesitation. She took down the first man with her knife. He never saw her coming, never made a sound. The second man was trying to flank Ezra. Clara put a bullet through his chest. The third man ran. She wounded him, sent him screaming into the darkness. By the time the sun rose, 5 attackers lay dead. 3 had fled. Ezra stared at Clara in the gray morning light. She was covered in blood. None of it hers. "You said you did not know how to shoot well." "I lied." "You killed 3 men." "I know. How do you feel?" Clara looked at her hands. Bloody. Steady. That is what scares me. I do not feel anything. Ezra's expression changed. Understanding flickered in his eyes. That does not make you a monster. It makes you a survivor. Is there a difference? Some days. They found the letter on one of the dead men. From Mercer to Barrett. Kill Stone. But keep the woman alive. She belongs to me. She always has since her mother refused me. Isabella was a fool. Her daughter will not make the same mistake. Clara's blood ran cold. He does not want the land. What? Mercer. He does not want the land. She handed Ezra the letter. He wants me. The barn smoldered for 2 days. Clara worked alongside Ezra to put out the last of the flames, bucket by bucket, until her arms ached and her hands blistered. They saved what they could. The horses, thankfully. Some tools, not much else. The children watched from the house, their faces pale and frightened. Daniel stood guard at the door with the rifle Ezra had given him, trying to look brave. The twins clung to Grace, who read them Bible verses in a voice that only shook a little. When the last embers finally died, Clara stood in the ash and surveyed the damage. "We will rebuild," she said. "With what?" Ezra's voice was flat, exhausted. "With what we have. It is what we do." She turned to face him. "But first, you are going to tell me the truth. All of it. About the photograph. About my father. About why you really bought us at that auction." Ezra looked at her for a long moment. The sunrise painted shadows across his face. "Tonight, after the children are asleep, I will tell you everything. That day they buried the dead men. Not because they deserved it, but because Clara would not have her children looking at corpses." Ezra dug the graves himself. Deep holes in the hard Texas dirt. He did not ask for help, and Clara did not offer. Some work a man needs to do alone. While he dug, Clara searched the bodies more thoroughly. She found $40 in gold between them. A watch that might be worth something. And more letters. These were not instructions. They were reports. Written in different hands, sent from different places. Stone spotted in Austin 3 months ago. Stone purchased supplies in Fort Worth. Stone seen riding toward Dry Springs. They have been tracking you, Clara said when Ezra came back from the graves. For months, maybe longer. Ezra took the letters, read them. His face hardened. Mercer is thorough. I will give him that. Why does he want you dead so badly? Because I know what he is, what he has done. Ezra folded the letters and tucked them in his pocket. When I was a ranger, I investigated a gun-running operation, weapons being sold to Comancheros. Those guns killed settlers, women, children, families. His voice went cold. The trail led back to Judge Cornelius Mercer. He was behind all of it, but before I could bring him down, everything went wrong. What happened? Ezra looked at the fresh graves. I made enemies, lost people I loved, and ran away like a coward. You are not a coward. I left. I disappeared. I let Mercer keep destroying lives because I was too broken to fight. Clara thought about that, about all the years she had spent hiding her own strength. We all run sometimes. The question is whether we stop running. That night, after the children were asleep, Ezra kept his promise. They sat on the porch in the darkness, watching the stars wheel overhead. The air was cool for once, carrying a hint of moisture that might mean rain coming. Might. 15 years ago. Ezra began, his voice rough. I was a young ranger, idealistic, believed in justice. I was assigned to track down a gun runner named Silas McCrae. Clara felt her breath catch. He was selling rifles to Comancheros. Those guns killed dozens of settlers, whole families wiped out because of what he did. My father was not a good man, Clara said quietly. I know that now. I did not know you then, did not know he had a family. He was just a name on a warrant, a job to be done. Ezra stared at the sky. My partner Thomas and I tracked him to a camp outside of Mason County. Thomas wanted to go in shooting. His own family had been killed by Comancheros years before. He wanted blood. Thomas Barrett, the sheriff's brother. Yes, what happened? Everything went wrong. Ezra's voice cracked. Thomas charged in before I could stop him. Your father was waiting. There was gunfire. Thomas got hit. I shot Silas. Thomas died in my arms. Silence stretched between them. You killed my father. I put a bullet in him while he was raising his gun to finish Thomas. I did not hesitate. Clara absorbed this. The stranger who had saved her family, the man who had killed her father, the same person. After Silas fell, I heard crying. Went to the cabin and found a woman dead inside. Thought it was from a stray bullet. And a girl, maybe 13, kneeling by her mother's body, screaming. That was me. I know. I did not know then. But I kept the photograph, found it in the cabin. Do not know why. Guilt, maybe. A reminder of what I had done. Clara felt tears burning in her eyes. Not from grief. Something more complicated. My mother did not die from a bullet. She had lung sickness. She was already dying. The shock just finished it faster. I did not know that. You could not have. She turned to face him. My father was not a good man. I loved him because he was my father, but he was not good. Those guns he sold killed innocent people, children. Clara, if you had not stopped him, how many more would have died? That does not make it right. No, it does not. But it makes it understandable. Ezra looked at her like she had spoken in a language he did not know. You should hate me. I should. Clara wiped her eyes. Part of me wants to. But you have spent 15 years carrying my face in your nightmares. You have suffered for what you did. Not enough. That is not for you to decide. She stood. I am not ready to forgive you. Maybe I never will be. But I am not going to kill you either. What do you want from me? Help me protect my children. Help me stop Mercer. After that, we will see. She walked to the door, paused. Mr. Stone. Yes. The girl you saw that night. The one screaming over her mother's body. She is standing in front of you now. And she is trying very hard to be better than her father was. She went inside. Ezra sat alone in the darkness for a long time. And for the first time in 3 years, he felt something other than despair. The days that followed were strange. Clara and Ezra moved around each other carefully like two people learning a new dance. They worked side by side, ate meals together, raised the children together. But something had shifted. The secrets were out. The truth lay between them, ugly and complicated. And somehow that made things easier. Clara found herself watching Ezra differently, noticing things she had missed before. The way he was patient with Daniel during riding lessons. The way he carved little wooden horses for the twins without being asked. The way he listened when Grace read from her Bible, even though Clara suspected he had lost his faith long ago. He was a good man. That was the truth she kept coming back to. However complicated their history, however painful the past, Ezra Stone was a good man trying to do right. And God help her, she was starting to care about him. One afternoon, Ezra asked Clara to come with him. He led her to a small rise behind the property. 2 wooden crosses marked graves there, weathered by sun and wind. "My wife and daughter," Ezra said quietly. What was left of them? Clara read the markers. Sarah Stone, Emma Stone, beloved wife and mother, beloved daughter. I buried them here because I could not bear to have them far from me. He paused, and because I plan to join them soon. But you have not yet. They stood in silence, looking at the graves. "Tell me about them," Clara said finally. Sarah was stubborn as a mule and twice as smart. She could outwork any man on the ranch and still have energy left over to read Emma's stories at night. Ezra's voice softened. "Emma was our miracle. We tried for years before she came along. Sarah used to say she was worth the wait. She sounds wonderful." She was. Ezra turned to face her. "You remind me of Sarah sometimes. The way you do not back down. The way you protect your children like a mama bear. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" "Both, probably." They walked back to the house in silence. At the door, Clara paused. "Ezra, yes. Thank you for showing me. For what it is worth, I think Sarah would have liked you." Clara felt something warm bloom in her chest. "I wish I could have met her." That night, Clara dreamed of fire. She was running through flames, searching for something. Someone. She could hear children crying, could hear Ezra calling her name. But every door she opened led to more fire, more smoke, more death. She woke gasping, tears streaming down her face. Ezra was there. He had heard her crying out, had come to check on her. Nightmare? Yes. Want to talk about it? No. But she did not tell him to leave either. He sat on the edge of her bed, not touching her, just present. "When I first started having nightmares about Sarah and Emma, I thought I was going crazy. Used to wake up screaming so loud the neighbors in town complained. What helped? Nothing for a long time. Then I learned that it helps to have someone there when you wake up. Someone to remind you that the dream is not real. Is that why you sleep by the door? So you can hear if one of us has nightmares?" "Partly. What is the other part?" "I told you. Trouble comes through doors." Clara almost laughed. "You are a strange man, Ezra Stone, so I have been told." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. "You should go back to sleep," Clara said finally. "So should you." But neither of them moved. "Clara." "Yes, I am glad you are here. All of you. I know it was not how any of us planned things, but I am glad." Clara looked at him in the darkness. His face was mostly shadow, but she could see his eyes. Gray as storm clouds. Soft now. "I'm glad, too." It was not a declaration of love, not even close, but it was something. The rider came at dawn, single figure, hands raised, no weapons visible. Clara recognized him before Ezra did. Wade Barrett, the sheriff of Dry Springs, the man who had killed her husband. She grabbed her rifle and was out the door before Ezra could stop her. "Give me one reason not to shoot," her voice was ice. Barrett dismounted slowly. He looked exhausted, haunted. "Because I know who really killed Thomas." Ezra appeared beside her, his own rifle ready. "What are you talking about?" I spent 15 years hating you, Stone, believing you got my brother killed through cowardice or stupidity. I did get him killed. I could not stop him from charging in, but you did not set the trap that was waiting for him. What trap? McCrae knew you were coming. Someone tipped him off. That is why everything went wrong. That is why Thomas died. Clara felt the ground shift beneath her. Who? Barrett pulled a worn paper from his coat. I have been working for Mercer for 10 years. I have seen his records, his letters. This is from 15 years ago. Mercer paid a scout to warn McCrae that Rangers were coming. He wanted both sides to kill each other. The Rangers who were getting too close to his operations and McCrae who was becoming a liability. Clara took the letter. Read it. Mercer got my father killed, and Thomas, and he has been playing both sides ever since. He has played all of us, me included. Why tell us now? Because yesterday Mercer ordered me to kill the boy. Daniel. Barrett's voice cracked. He said the boy saw too much, remembered too much. He needed to be silenced. Clara's hand tightened on her rifle. I have done terrible things. I poisoned your husband. I have killed men who did not deserve it. I told myself it was just business. Barrett looked at Daniel, who had appeared in the doorway. But I looked at that boy and I saw Thomas, 11 years old, trying to be brave. I could not do it. You want amnesty? Ezra's voice was hard. I want Mercer dead. After that, I do not much care what happens to me. Clara looked at the man who had murdered Samuel. Every instinct screamed to refuse, to shoot him where he stood, but she thought of Daniel, of Grace, of the twins. If you betray us, I will kill you myself, slowly. Fair enough. The planning took 3 days. Clara had never imagined she would sit at a table with the man who killed her father and the man who killed her husband, plotting the downfall of a common enemy. Life, she was learning, had a twisted sense of humor. Barrett knew Mercer's operation inside and out. He had been part of it for a decade. He knew the guards, the schedules, the weak points. Most importantly, he knew where Mercer kept his records. 20 years of corruption, Barrett said, spreading rough sketches across the table. Bribery, murder, land theft. It is all in his study, behind a painting of his mother, locked safe. I have seen him open it. Can you get to it? Not alone. The house is always guarded. Mercer is paranoid. He does not trust anyone. Then we need a distraction, Ezra said. Someone to keep his attention while Barrett gets the documents. Clara spoke without hesitation. I will do it. Every head turned to her. Mercer wants me. He has made that clear. I will go to him. Offer to negotiate. Tell him I will stay with him willingly if he leaves my children alone. Clara. Ezra's voice was sharp. It is too dangerous. Everything is dangerous. This at least gives us a chance. Barrett nodded slowly. She is right. Mercer is obsessed with her. He will not be able to resist. I do not like it. You do not have to like it. You just have to trust me. Clara met Ezra's eyes. I am not the helpless widow you thought you bought, remember? Grace came to Clara that night. The girl had been quiet since the attack, watching, thinking. Sometimes Clara forgot that her daughter was only 8 years old. She seemed so much older. Mama. Yes, baby. I can help. Clara's heart clenched. No, absolutely not. I can read lips, Mama. From far away. If I watch the windows, I can tell you what Mercer's men are saying. I can see things no one else can. How do you know you can do that? Grace looked down at her hands. Remember when Pa used to come home from the saloon? I could tell what he was saying to himself even when he thought he was being quiet. The fever took some of my hearing, but it gave me something else. I learned to watch mouths, watch faces, read what people are saying without them knowing. Clara pulled her daughter close. That is quite a gift. I want to use it to help. I want to help keep Daniel and the twins safe. Clara thought about refusing. Every maternal instinct screamed to protect her daughter from the violence that was coming. But Grace was right. Her ability was genuine. And in a fight where they were outnumbered, every advantage mattered. You stay hidden, you stay safe. You watch from a distance only. The moment you see trouble, you run. Understand? Yes, Mama. Promise me. I promise. The night before they left, Clara found herself standing on the porch, watching the stars. Ezra joined her as she knew he would. Scared? Terrified. Good. Only fools are not scared before a fight. You do not seem scared. I have had a lot of practice hiding it. They stood in comfortable silence. What happens after? Clara asked. If we win, what happens to us? I do not know. Ezra was quiet for a moment. I suppose that depends on you. On me? I told you once, I am not going anywhere unless you want me to. That has not changed. Clara turned to look at him. In the starlight, his face was softer, younger, almost. I never thought I would be planning a mission with the man who killed my father and the man who killed my husband. Life is strange. Life is cruel. She paused. But sometimes cruel things lead to unexpected places. She did not touch him, but she stood close enough that their shoulders almost brushed. Ezra. Yes. If I do not come back tomorrow, tell my children I love them. Tell them to be brave and kind and to look after each other. You will come back. Promise me anyway. Ezra turned to face her fully. His gray eyes were serious. I promise. But Clara? Yes. I am not letting you go in there alone. Whatever happens, we face it together. Together, Clara repeated. It was not a declaration of love, but it felt like one. Dawn broke gray and cold over the territory. Clara rode toward Mercer's mansion alone, her heart pounding against her ribs. Behind her, she knew Ezra was positioning on the ridge. Barrett was circling to the back. Grace was hiding in the grove of trees with a clear view of the windows. And at the ranch, Daniel stood guard over the twins with 3 townspeople Martha had recruited to help. The plan was simple. Get in, keep Mercer distracted. Get out with the evidence. Simple plans, Clara knew, had a way of going wrong. Mercer's mansion rose from the Texas plains like a palace. 3 stories of white stone and glass, built on blood money and broken lives. Clara had heard stories about this place, about the parties Mercer threw, about the people who went inside and never came out. She forced herself to breathe. The guards at the gate stopped her. State your business. Clara Weston, the judge is expecting me. It was a lie, but she said it with enough confidence that the guards exchanged uncertain glances. Wait here. One of them disappeared inside. Minutes passed. Clara sat on her horse, feeling exposed. Finally, the guard returned. The judge will see you. Follow me. The inside of the mansion was even more obscene than the outside. Crystal chandeliers, silk curtains, paintings and gilded frames. All of it purchased with stolen land and murdered settlers. Clara wanted to burn it to the ground. The guard led her to a study at the back of the house. Heavy oak doors. Armed men at every entrance. Judge Mercer was waiting. Mrs. Weston. He rose from behind a massive desk, his smile the kind of warmth that made your skin crawl. You are even more beautiful than I remembered. I have come to make a deal. Have you? Clara forced herself to meet his eyes. You want me. You have made that clear. And I want my children safe. Go on. I will stay with you, willingly. I will be whatever you want me to be, but in exchange you leave my children alone. You let them go with Stone. You never touch them. Mercer began to circle her. His eyes moved over her body with disturbing intensity. You look so much like her. Isabella, your mother. He reached out to touch her hair. Clara forced herself not to flinch. She was the only woman I ever loved, you know. And she chose that gun-running bastard over me. That was her choice. It was the wrong choice. I would have given her everything, made her a queen. His voice hardened. Instead, she died in a dirty cabin, married to a criminal. You cannot change the past, no. But I can correct it. He leaned close. His breath was hot on her face. "You will give me children, Clara, sons to carry my name, and they will be raised properly, not like those brats of yours." Clara felt bile rise in her throat, but she kept her face neutral. "Do we have a deal?" "We might, if you prove your sincerity." "How?" "Kiss me." Outside, Grace watched through the windows. She could not hear what was being said, but she could read the lips, could see the way Mercer looked at her mother, could see her mother's hands clenched at her sides, and she could see the guards moving, not randomly, purposefully, surrounding something, someone. Grace shifted her position, trying to get a better angle. There, near the back of the house, Barrett. He was fighting. Two men had him pinned, a third was raising a gun. Grace did not think. She ran. Clara heard the commotion outside, shouts, gunfire, the sound of breaking glass. Mercer's smile turned predatory. "Did you really think I did not know?" "Know what?" "Barrett has been watched for days. Stone has been tracked since he left his ranch." Mercer gestured to his men. "Bring me the little girl from the trees, and send riders to the Stone Ranch. Kill everyone there." "No." Clara dropped the pretense. Her hand moved toward the knife hidden in her boot. "You will not touch my children. I will do whatever I want. I always have." Clara moved. She was not fast enough. Guards grabbed her arms, hauled her back. But she managed to slam her head forward, catching Mercer's nose with her forehead. Blood sprayed. Mercer staggered back, clutching his face. "Oh, I'm going to enjoy breaking you." Grace ran toward the back of the house, her heart pounding. She had promised her mother she would run at the first sign of trouble, but Barrett was the only one who could get the evidence. Without him, everything was lost. She found him on the ground, bleeding from a cut on his head. Two guards were dragging him away. A third was rifling through his pockets. Grace picked up a rock. She had never hit anyone in her life, had never wanted to hurt another person. But she thought of her brothers, her sister, her mother inside that house. And she threw. The rock caught the nearest guard in the temple. He dropped like a stone. The second guard spun, reaching for his gun. Grace was already running. Ezra saw the smoke. Not from the mansion, from the direction of his ranch. His blood went cold. They had split their forces, attacked on two fronts. He raised his rifle, sighted down the barrel at the mansion below. He could see movement through the windows, could see Clara being held by guards, could see Grace running from men twice her size. He made his choice. He started shooting. The first guard went down with a bullet through his shoulder. The second dove for cover. Grace kept running, zigzagging the way Ezra had taught her. Bullets kicked up dirt around her feet, but she did not stop. She reached the trees, kept going, did not look back. Inside the mansion, chaos erupted. Guards ran toward the windows, toward the gunfire. Clara felt the hands holding her loosen. She twisted free. One guard raised his gun at her. She kicked it from his hand. The second grabbed her from behind. She threw her head back, felt his nose crunch. Then she was running. Through the halls, past screaming servants, toward the back of the house. She found Barrett lying in a pool of blood, still breathing. Barely. The documents. He gasped. "Got them." Coat pocket. Clara grabbed the packet of papers, shoved it in her shirt. "Can you walk?" "Have to." She hauled him to his feet. Together they stumbled toward the door. Outside, the world was on fire. Ezra had created chaos, set buildings ablaze, made Mercer think he was facing an army instead of one man. Clara emerged into smoke and screaming. "Stone." Barrett's voice was fading. "Take her and go. I will hold them off. You will die. Probably." Barrett smiled, blood on his teeth. "Tell the boy I am sorry. For his father." Clara looked at the man who had murdered Samuel. She should hate him. Part of her still did, but she understood now. Sometimes monsters could choose to be something else, even if it was too late. "I will tell him." Barrett pushed her toward the trees. "Go!" Clara ran. The cavalry came at noon. Grace had reached the town, had found old Martha, had gasped out enough of the story that the old woman understood. Within an hour, Martha had gathered everyone, every shopkeeper, every farmer, every widow who had suffered under Mercer's tyranny. 30 people rode toward the mansion, armed with whatever they could find. By the time they arrived, the fight was nearly over. Ezra had spent his last bullet an hour ago. Now he fought with fists and knife, his body battered but unbroken. Clara had found Mercer trying to escape through a back passage. She blocked his path, a pistol in her hand. "You will not shoot me," Mercer sneered. "You are not a killer. You do not know anything about what I am." Clara raised the gun. "My mother was not soft. She was kind. There is a difference. And she made her choice. She chose my father over you. Whatever his sins, she chose him. And you have spent 30 years unable to accept that. She was wrong. She was not wrong. She just was not yours." Mercer lunged. Clara fired. The bullet took him in the shoulder. He fell. "That is for my husband," she shot again. "His knee. That is for my children." She stood over him, the gun aimed at his head. "Please, I have money. I can give you anything. You can give me nothing I want." Her finger tightened on the trigger. She thought of Daniel, Grace, the twins. She thought of what she would become if she executed a helpless man. "You are going to prison, Mercer. Territorial prison. You are going to spend the rest of your miserable life in a cell, knowing that Isabella's daughter put you there." She knocked him unconscious with the butt of the pistol and walked away. They found Barrett against the wall where Clara had left him. He was still alive, barely. Ezra knelt beside him. "You could have run. Why did you stay?" "Spent my whole life running from what I was." Barrett coughed blood. "Thought maybe dying for something decent might make up for some of it. It does not work like that." "Probably not." Barrett's eyes were glazing over. "Tell the boy I am sorry. For his father. I will. Thomas. I will see you soon, brother." He died with something like peace on his face. At the ranch, Daniel had held the line he was wounded, a graze across his arm, but alive. The twins were hiding in the root cellar, scared but unharmed. When Clara arrived, Daniel threw himself into her arms. "I shot someone, Mama. I did not kill him, but I shot him. You did what you had to do. I did not want to be like Grandpa McCrae." Clara cupped his face in her hands. "You are nothing like my father. You protected your sisters. That is what good men do." Martha was dead. She had taken a bullet during the mansion assault, shielding a younger woman. The town mourned her, but they were also free for the first time in decades. Mercer was in chains, bound for territorial prison in Austin, where he would stand trial for crimes too numerous to count. The threat was over, but the cost had been high. Ezra found Clara standing over Martha's grave that evening. "It is over," she said. "Is it? Mercer is going to prison. Barrett is dead. The threat is gone. And what about us?" Clara was quiet for a long moment. "We keep living. We figure the rest out." It was not a declaration of love, but it was a beginning. 1 month later, the ranch had been rebuilt, not by Ezra alone. The townspeople came together the way communities do after shared trauma. The barn was new. The fences were solid. The well still flowed with clean water. Daniel was quieter now. The wound on his arm healed quickly. The wound inside took longer, but Ezra worked with him every day, teaching him to think, to plan, to control his fear. "A gun is a tool," Ezra said one morning, "not a solution. The solution is here." He tapped Daniel's head, and here, he tapped Daniel's heart. Grace continued her Bible reading, but her prayers had changed. She no longer prayed for miracles, she prayed for strength. The twins were back to normal, tumbling, fighting, laughing. Children are resilient. It is the adults who carry scars. Clara and Ezra had not defined what they were. They shared a house, but not a bed. They worked side by side. ate meals together, raised the children together. Something was shifting between them. One evening, Ezra was fixing a fence post. Clara brought him water. She watched him work. The efficient movements, the unconscious competence. "Do you remember what you asked me when this was all starting? You asked why I would trust a stranger who paid money for my family. I remember. I did not have an answer then. I think I do now. What is it? I trusted you because you looked at my children like they mattered. Not like burdens, not like property, like people." She set down the water bucket. No one had looked at us that way since Samuel was sober. Maybe not even then. Ezra stopped working, turned to face her. "I bought you to clear a debt I have owed for 15 years. Your father died by my hand. I thought maybe saving his grandchildren would balance something. Did it? No. Nothing balances that kind of ledger. I know that now. Then why stay? Why keep doing this? Because somewhere along the way it stopped being about debt. It started being about you. About Daniel and Grace and the twins. About wanting to see what comes next. They did not call it a proposal. Ezra did not get down on one knee, did not offer a ring. He just looked at her and said, "I am not asking for anything, Clara. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not expect love. But I want you to know I am not going anywhere. Unless you want me to, what if I do not know what I want? Then we wait until you do. That could take a long time. I have got time. So do I suppose." It was not romance. It was something more real. Two broken people agreeing to heal in the same place, at the same pace, without promises they might not keep. Evening fell over the ranch. The family gathered for dinner. Daniel said grace, something he had started doing since his sister taught him. The twins squabbled over the last biscuit. Ezra and Clara sat across from each other. Their eyes met briefly. A small smile passed between them. After dinner, the children went to bed. Clara stood on the porch looking at the stars. Ezra joined her. "My mother used to tell me that every star is a story. All those lights up there. All those lives burning away in the dark. What is our story? I do not know yet." Clara turned to look at him. "But for the first time in a long time, I want to find out." She reached out, took his hand. He did not pull away. Two silhouettes on a porch, hands clasped, stars overhead. Behind them a house with lights in the windows. The sound of children sleeping. Not a perfect ending, not a fairy tale. Just two people who survived the worst and chose to keep going. Together. They ask me sometimes, the neighbors, the people in town, if I am happy. I never know what to tell them. Happy seems like a big word for what we have. We have work. We have children. We have someone to share the silence with when the nightmares come. Maybe that is not happiness. Maybe it is something better. Maybe it is enough. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful stories with valuable life lessons. Every narrative is crafted to entertain, inspire, and empower our audience. We believe that great stories can change lives, and we are committed to bringing you content that matters. Thank you for being part of our community.